Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Brian, and today I'm going to be covering some of the playoff games that are currently ongoing. And I want to first start off by saying Happy New Year. I hope everybody's having a great first day of the new year of 2026. It's been a good holiday season for me so far, and unfortunately, kind of taken up some time that I wouldn't be using for videos otherwise, but I hope everybody's having a great day. Um, as we speak right now, the Orange Bowl is currently ongoing with Oregon beating Texas Tech 16 to nothing, and there's 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, so it does look like Oregon will be moving on in the standings. After that is the Rose Bowl game with Alabama and Indiana, and Sugar Bowl with Ole Miss and Georgia. Um, Alabama put up a really solid game against Oklahoma, beating them. And of course, if anybody you watched last night, Miami upset Ohio State, and with some pretty solid defensive play. Ohio State's offensive line looks really bad, unfortunately. So Miami is moving on, and they'll be playing. I believe they will be playing the winner of. They'll be playing in the Fiesta Bowl. I believe that's the winner of the Rose Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. And I believe the Peach Bowl will be the winner of the Sugar Bowl and Oregon. So, if I'm not mistaken, of course. So, we'll just kind of do a quick summary of how the last couple of games have gone. I just covered Miami versus Ohio State. It was a really good game, but in the general sense of it was fun to watch. But Ohio State did not look great. Julian Sand did not was under pressure a lot, and they just could not do enough. They were moving the ball several times and had turnovers, or just their offensive line just couldn't hold up, and sacks were occurring. Julian Sand had a screen pass intercepted by my player that was one of the most beautiful defensive plays I've ever seen. I think it was some guy named Scott, if I remember correctly. He read the play so beautifully, pick six. And that kind of Ohio State just never looked the same after that. So unfortunately, Ohio State is not moving on. The Big Ten team is out, and Miami is in. However, Miami came to they show up and played. Congrats to them. Um, for the Oregon Texas Tech game, obviously, like I said, there's 2 minutes left, so it's going to be done here shortly. And Texas Tech has done nothing offensively. Oregon's defense has completely shut them out. But Oregon's offense hasn't looked spectacular, but 16 points is enough to win in this case. So their offense is looking fine, but their defense has showed up and really, really stuffed Texas Tech offensively. They've done nothing, not even a field goal. So I think that says something about Oregon's defense after letting JMU drop 34 on them out of nowhere. So I think Oregon's really taking it seriously. They came into the game ready to really put the lock down, and they did. And Texas Tech, like I said, is unfortunately looking like they will not be moving on. So, um, moving on to the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl. Rose Bowl with Alabama and Indiana. I would love to see Indiana moving on. Alabama is still a legitimate team, nothing taken away from them, but I think Indiana does have what it takes this year to put the screws on Alabama and win. I really think so. They are a tough team. They've had a lot of time to prepare. Alabama had a hard game against Oklahoma, and they won, but it was a hard game, and Indiana's had some time to rest. Fernando Mendoza, while he's the Heisman Trophy winner, this year's Heisman class wasn't the deepest, to be fair, but he's still the Heisman Trophy winner for a reason. He has everything that it takes to win this, and I think that they absolutely can. The formula for beating Alabama is already clear to virtually everybody. Uh, to stop their passing game, force them to run, and the run game is non-existent. Basically, that's really been like the key to stopping Alabama is stopping their passing game because their running game is not what it was over the last couple of years. So, Ole Miss and Georgia, I personally want Ole Miss to win because I would like to see Ole Miss and Indiana in the finals, but obviously there's a couple more games after this yet, even for it to get to that point. However, Ole Miss and Georgia is going to could very well be either a defensive grind or a total shootout. and unfortunately, Georgia did win a shootout with them earlier this year. So seeing that, um, I'm curious as to how Ole Miss will handle Georgia because Georgia is a very good team, excellent team. Excuse me. And are they good enough to put last year's failure in the playoffs behind them? Or are they going to kind of stumble in that moment? Now, this is not about Kirby Smart as a coach. He's a great coach. This is about the players. Are the players emotionally developed enough to put that kind of memory behind them? As Kirby Smart as a coach is absolutely capable. He's done it a number of times. He has multiple championships at this point. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how Georgia comes to this game. Ole Miss has already just they annihilated Tulane. So I don't know that I think the anger from how the Lane Kiffin situation went down really sparked them through that, but can that emotional high carry them past that? I don't know. So we'll see what happens there. Because Ole Miss is determined to go deep into the playoffs, if not all the way. So we'll see which team really wants it more. Um, Also, yesterday, Michigan played Texas. I didn't get a chance to put out a video due to some other personal conflicts I had at the time, but it was an interesting game, and I did not necessarily have Michigan winning the game. However, they showed up and they played pretty good. I mean, there was some real highlights there. And if you're not following the Michigan situation, Kyle Whittingham, the former Utah coach, is now Michigan's coach. So he is going to be bringing in all kinds of staff, and I'll put out a video maybe tomorrow or the next day, depending on what news kind of comes out about that. But Michigan played really fairly decently. While the score was 41-27, Texas did win, and credit to them for playing hard. And Arch Mann looked great. You know, nothing against the Texas players. I don't know if he'll ever be the greatest Texas player because they've had quite a few high profile names like Ricky Williams and Colt McCoy. If you want to know more about Texas, go check out Bengal. He lives for Texas, literally, I think. But Texas showed up and they played hard. They won. It was mostly the turnovers on Michigan's part that really broke the game open for in Texas's favor. Both teams were fairly going back and forth until Michigan started making mistakes, and that's what really killed them. Uh, Both teams were running hard. They had throwing hard. There was some incredible plays, but I think Michigan has to stop relying on the incredible plays and start relying on the solid plays to win the games. Because how many incredible plays can you make a game? Because that means the other team is forcing you to make plays that are exceptional, and you as much as I love watching them, exceptional plays aren't gonna happen every time. And exceptional plays don't go your way more often than not, interceptions, turnovers of any kind. So Michigan has to start getting more substantial gains on each offensive play and more substantial stops on each defensive play. So, but Kyle Whittingham is a significantly tenured coach. He was at Utah for 20 plus years, I think almost 21 years. He knows everything that we don't. He's probably forgotten more about college football than we will ever know. So I think that he's gonna come in and do good things. So I think he knows that. And there's a lot of talent at Michigan to work with. Looks to the best of my knowledge, Bryce Underwood is staying, as well as a couple other players that in other scenario might have left for the portal if Michigan had made a less intelligent choice. So it looks like a good match. So we'll see. But I'll talk more about that later in another video. But yeah, so Michigan did play hard. Texas just played harder. Texas defense just was there at the right times, and credit to them for winning. Realistically, um, like I said, I know Bengal and some of the other Texas fans, like Matthew McConaughey, are very very happy. So that's should be interesting to see going forward next year for Michigan. But it was not a poor showing for Michigan by any stretch. Nobody was awful. Kudzall had some good runs and he's our third string and he showed up. So Michigan has this stuff there. And it was not a poor showing. Not a great showing because we lost, but not a poor showing either. I was not disappointed in terms of the effort being put forth by the players, which is saying something because a lot of players opted out. And that's not a Michigan thing, obviously. A lot of players from all teams opted out. But yeah. Uh, s- and there were some other good games. A side note yesterday, Iowa beat Vanderbilt, and of course, Daga Pavia for some reason decided to start slandering the Big Ten. And I do not understand this, why he chooses to say these things, but it's his prerogative. But Iowa did beat Vanderbilt, so that was an interesting matchup, and I have yet to understand why players seem to think that conference prestige is a thing anymore because NIL has virtually leveled that playing field. Every conference is just a name at this point. The more you can pay the players, the more they'll come to you. Look at Texas Tech, and that's not slander against Texas Tech because they won virtually every game this year except for one, I believe. And even though they just lost to Oregon, that's not 12-2 is a good record. So uh, Duke beat Arizona State yesterday, and Utah wiped the floor of Nebraska. I feel like everybody and their mother saw that coming. 44-22 is a belting. Uh, TCU upset USC. That was surprising. I saw that. And then I did watch most of the Illinois Tennessee game. That was really good. Both teams played hard, but Illinois showed that resiliency that maybe a couple years ago they wouldn't have had. So that was good. It was both of those games were good. So there's some other games I believe I covered already, like Houston beating LSU. Curious to see how Lane Kiffin kind of interprets that and see if he decides to make any moves. There's been some transfer portal news. A bunch of Auburn players are leaving, so it'll be interesting to see where some of those go. If you're following the North Texas kind of story, Drew Mestiker, can't pronounce his last name, Mestiker or something like that. Anyways, he had some insane amount of passing yards, and their running back Caleb Knight or something like that. I can't remember his name. I'm apologize, my mind's blanking right now. But basically, the starting quarterback and the starting running back for North Texas, both of who will put up video game like numbers, are entering the transfer portal. And apparently, Ohio State's in the or not Ohio State, Oklahoma State is in the lead for both their services at this point. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Um, if they get them there, Oklahoma State was a dumpster fire this past season. That very well could turn that around. So we'll see what happens there. That's gonna be really interesting. And of course, there's other transport news, but I'll have to kind of view that and see what the more outstanding names are. A bunch of Auburn players are leaving, I know, but I'm not sure what's going on at Auburn now, but they don't seem to be doing so hot. So it's basically official at this point. Oregon is up on Texas Tech 23-0 with 15 seconds left. So Oregon will be moving on playoffs. Um, yeah, so I basically have covered everything. Sorry, I'm kind of back and forth a little bit there, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens going forward, and both in the playoffs and with Michigan specifically. So, if you like what you're seeing, like what you hear, got any comments, suggestions, I am all ears. I appreciate you watching this, and I hope every single one of you has a great start of the year, and the year just gets better from there. Thanks for everything, and like and subscribe. Peace.